In this week's double seder of VaYakhel Pikudei, the narration of the Hakamas HaMishkan, the construct of the tabernacle in the desert for Klal Yisrael, per the Tzivui Hashem, the command of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, finally comes to a close. The presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu filled the entire Mishkan, and much as he had initially instructed Moshe Rabbeinu that should the people adhere to the exact commands of Hashem Yisparach and bring forth all of that which was needed to construct the Mishkan in the form and fashion and measure which was required, then indeed, va'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'sacham, where they will craft for me a mikdash, a tabernacle, a mishkan, then indeed I will dwell within them. So let's ask ourselves the question, what was it exactly that really facilitated the Ashras Hashkina? Was it really the entire litany of all the items required in the formation of that Mishkan, that house of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Was it the gold and the silver and the copper and the onyx and all of the different gemstones and the big kahuna, the clothing and the tapestries that constructed the Mishkan and the planks and the Briach HaTichon and all of the rods that were necessary to hold the Krushim, to hold the Mishkan not afloat but rather properly in place? Was it the hooks, the gold ones and the copper ones? Was it all the silver? Was it the angling of the three things to be found in the Kodesh, the Mizbeach HaZahav, the altar that was constructed out of gold, and the Shulchan, and the Menorahs HaZahav? Exactly what ultimately brought HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem Yisparach, into the Mishkan? Perhaps it was the following pasuk that's rather innocently included, but has so much to tell us. And the work was sufficient regarding all the work that needed to have been done for the construct of the Mishkan. It was exactly sufficient. Vehoser, and even more than enough. And the Rishonim have a difficult time giving pshat in this pasuk, because if it was exactly the amount that was necessitated, then there was nothing left over. It was not more than enough. And if indeed that which was contributed by Klal Yisrael to the Mishkan was more than enough, there was not an exact measure as to what was actually required to form and fashion all the vessels in the big day kahuna. And different teruts and different answers are suggested. This Sforno explains that there was enough given by Klal Yisrael, more than enough, so that when the things were crafted, B'tzalel and Nahaliyav, and those who actually crafted them and made them, they didn't have to stint. They didn't have to scrimp on the materials. They had more than enough to make it exactly as it should appear. And the Rechaim explains that indeed more than enough was contributed, but lest anyone feel to himself afterwards, oh my gosh, I may have given the amount that brought things over the top, and maybe my silver or my copper or my gold or my goats here was not included in the formation of the Mishkan. Therefore, suggests the Rechaim HaKadosh, no, even though it was really more than enough, but the more became included in the exact amount that was sufficient and enough, so that no one should feel that he or she was not included in contributing to the Mishkan. But maybe there's another pshat in this pasuk, and I'd like to suggest as follows. You know, in life, Chazal tell us that yesh mana rosa masayim, that when a person feels that if he has $100, if he can earn that specific amount, why, he'll be set and he'll be able to sleep at night and he won't have the daigos and he'll be able to support his family. But the moment that he earns that exact amount that he certainly dreamt of would be enough and more than enough, suddenly, not only is it not more than enough, it's not even enough. When he has the 100, he suddenly needs 200. And as Jews, all of us know that we are driven. And every subsequent generation, from our grandparents to our parents to ourselves, sought to improve upon the previous generation, to give more to the next generation. It wasn't enough to give what they had received from their parents. We want to give our children more than we receive. And we don't want them to be like us. We want them to be more than who we are, more successful, greater Yirei Shamayim, greater Yirei Talmidei Chachamim. People want to amass more. People want to have more children than the families into which they were born. People want to do more, want to give more. People want to be more. And at the end of the day, in truth, enough is so rarely, if ever, really enough. And isn't it true that so often when parents become grandparents and they look at their children and whatever problems or woes or demons challenge them in life, they think to themselves, you know, maybe I could have done more. Maybe I could have given more. Maybe I could have had more patience. Maybe I could have been more sensitive. Maybe I could have inspired and supported more. Maybe I could have said less and accomplished more. Maybe indeed I didn't do enough. And on one's deathbed, one can in fact so easily say, I really didn't do enough. I could have done more, accomplished more, given more, been more. And what I took as being enough was really not enough. And so the Apostle comes to tell us that by the construction of the Mishkan, everyone brought what they really understood and felt HaKadosh Baruch Hu would want them to give. And what was that? I guess it's what a parent is supposed to ask of his children and demand of his children. Tatala, you don't have to get the highest grade in the class. You don't have to score the most points in the game. You don't have to be the biggest bucky and no shaspa uphet. But you have to do your best. Just do your best. And if you do your best, you will have done enough. So maybe, just maybe, everyone brought what they really felt they couldn't part with, and what HaKadosh Baruch Hu would want them to contribute. And they were honest with themselves. And they really gave and gave and gave what they felt they could give and should give. And indeed, at the end of the day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepted it. Everything was fashioned, and the malacha was dayam v'hoser. It was enough, and there was left over. What was left over? The feeling on the part of the people that indeed what they had done was actually enough. And finally, they were able to feel to themselves and within themselves that their enough was actually enough. And you know what happens when we live our lives and we really try to do our best? We do our best. And we honestly do our best. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu smiles down upon us. And he resides within our Batei Mikdash, our Mikdashei Ma'at, our small shuls and shtibelach and kollelin and yeshivas, and our homes. Because he says to us, you've done your best, why that's enough for me. And it should be enough for you. And when we feel the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu within our homes, well then indeed, enough really is enough. And we feel him smiling upon us, and we feel his nearness, and we can sleep better at night and live our lives in a way that has a greater simchas achayim, a greater joy in life itself, because we know that we're doing our best, and enough is really enough. Have a wonderful Shabbat.